सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Okay, so we saw Kshanti, and what we ended by is that all these issues of denial, defiance, wanting to change but unable to change, or changing slowly, not only applies to others but also to ourselves. We have to recognize that. And the more we recognize that, then more we are realistic about human beings and human nature. And we are not dismissive of different people, and we can accommodate them more naturally and more easily. So now the next value is amanitvam adambitvam. You repeat after me. Amanitvam adambitvam ahimsa kshantihi. Now the next value is arjavam. Arjavam. Arjavam is the next value. And the word comes from ruju, like a rope, and bhava, so that means straight, being straightforward. Being straightforward is a huge quality. And what does it mean, being straightforward? So,
what does that mean?
Ruju is a rope.
Ruju.
And rujutva means like how suppose a rope is straight, in straight line. It's not like all, what?
Wavy.
Huh?
Wavy.
Wavy, right? So then it's called straightforwardness, right? So how if a rope is straight, there is a straightforwardness. And what does it mean? What does being straightforward mean, right? So there is an alignment between what you think, what you say, and what you do. This is called straightforwardness.
And what's straight and then straight?
Forward.
Forward.
Oh,
Straightforward.
I confused. Forward.
Right? So what it means is that what you think, what you say, and what you do is all in alignment. So let's look at when at times what you think and what you say are not in alignment. So it can start with a simple thing like, a very simple thing like you think that the person is dressed ridiculously, but in some party that you go and you still say, oh, you look so nice. So what it means is, or you think that this person is singing all off tune, but after the concert you say, oh yeah, it was so good, right? So what it means is that what you think and what you say, there is at times not straightforwardness. And it doesn't mean that you're lying, right? I mean, yes, you're not saying what you think, but it doesn't get such a kind of a strong title as lying. Why? because many things we do, right, just to please others and not to deceive them, or just it's when it's nice, you meet somebody in the morning, it's nice to say something good, so you just mechanically say it but you don't mean it, or you want to make the person feel good and then you say it but you don't really mean it. So many of our behaviors are like that, and that is what there is no a real strength to our words, right? There is no weightage that our words have because they are loose, they don't mean anything. So in fact, I was just really thinking about simple thing like how was one human being like Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela or whoever, right? They have one thought that, okay, I want to work towards this, and they are able to move the masses. It's not easy, right? To convince two people is not easy. But you get everybody to think in a given way and take them with you for something which is higher, where they have to make self-sacrifice. It's one of the toughest things to do. But what is it? Many people wanted the same thing that he wanted, but why his word counted most? And I understood that when I read his autobiography. And his autobiography is about his life. And his life, what is the title of his autobiography? My Experiments with Truth. And what it means is, he says, my life was not about fighting any external enemy. It was not at all. Or giving freedom to my nation. My life was about living life of truth. And in that pursuit of truth, so many things got done through me. And the biggest thing that in fact, while I was doing everything, my focus was gaining this alignment. Gaining this alignment between what I think and what I say has to be in alignment. What I say and what I do has to be in alignment. Otherwise, I'm all scattered. I say something, I do something, I say something else. I'm just not together as a person. And if I'm not together as a person, how can others take me seriously? So this is also something that, any spiritual teacher also, the first thing they have to do is to get them together.
Integrity.
Integrity is so important. And what you say and what you think and what you do is also something that we are all struggling, right? Every new year we have a resolution. And what is a resolution? I'm going to not have chocolates. And after 1 week, you find yourself having a chocolate. Yeah, one chocolate doesn't matter. Right?
1 week, 1 hour.
Or you every morning, right, to say that I'm going to get up tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock and do pranayam. And 5 o'clock, alarm rings. Oh my God, I'm too tired today. So what it means is there is so much non-alignment between your thoughts, what you say, what you do. And sometimes it is all cultural. You know how loose the words are and they don't mean anything. So I just want to tell you a simple funny story that we moved to India after 30 years of living abroad. And, we started meeting people because we had lost touch with everybody. My husband is Indian, but he grew up in France. So he is, in his thinking, very French. In his look, he is Indian, but in his thoughts, he is very French. So, we started meeting people, and we would go to some social gathering, and people will say, come home. They were happy to meet us, and they said, come home, come home. So after the gathering was over, he would say, did they give you their number? I said, no. Then he says, how are they asking you to come home if you have no idea where they live and you have no contact for them? So I told him that, they say it just to kind of show their affection and connection. They don't really mean it. So, and this is what we call certain socialization, certain way of exchange. What it means is that we say things which are sometimes beautiful, or we say things to please others, but we don't mean them at all. And therefore, many of the scriptures, right, they talk about this alignment. And what are the stories that you know from Mahabharata or from Ramayana? I don't know if you know any story which talks so much about this alignment. People are willing to make some big sacrifices in order to stay true to what they said and to honor what they say. Does any story come to your mind? One of the stories of, I'll give you one, I don't want to they are archetypes. So archetypes means we have to understand what it stands for. I don't want to romanticize that behavior and tell you that, oh, this is the right behavior. But there are people who are committed to this, honoring what they say. So their words are not frivolous. They are not flimsy words. They mean what they say, and they try to live by what they say. So the one example was Dashratha in Ramayana. So he was fighting a war and he was injured. And his wife, she was also very brave. So she fought, she went and she fought, and she also took care of him, and she took care of his wound. So at that time, he was so happy with her. Her name is Kaikai. And he was so happy with her. And he says that, you have saved my life today in the battlefield. And for this, you can ask me 2 boons, and you can encash any time. And I will grant you that, because you've done a huge favor to me. And you fought and we won the war, and also you saved my life. So for both of these, you'll get 2 boons. So over the years pass, and then Dashratha has 3 queens, and Rama is the son of the eldest queen, and he was going to be coronated as the king. And the night before that, Kaikai says, now I want to encash 2 of my boons. And he was very happy because he loved her. And he said, yeah, sure. I mean, today is a very good day, because tomorrow is a coronation of my beloved son Rama, and today you are asking me to encash those boons which are pending for so long, and I'm very happy to give it to you. And what is the first thing she asks? Rama goes to the forest for 14 years.
Rama
goes to the forest for 14 years, right? He has to. And what is the second boon? My son, Bharat, has to become the king of Ayodhya. 2 boons. He was the king. He could have easily dismissed her and said, no, I will, this is too much and I'm not going to follow you. Easily. What power she had, tell me. If he had said no, what could she have done? Nothing. But he decided to be true to his words. It was his decision. There was no external pressure. And in order to uphold his own words, what did he have to go through? So much pain. The person, the son that you love the most, he was willing to, he was breaking down. When he saw Rama, his favorite son, who was such a noble human being, he saw him leaving. to go through our own pain, not as something which is coming from external pressure, but it is your value. So this particular quote of Ramayana is very well quoted, and it is said, Raghukula Rita Sadachali Ai Prana Jai Par Vachan Na Jai. What does it mean? This is our family heritage. Raghukula, it's a kula, it's a genes that we have received, and this is our tradition. And what is the tradition? You say what you mean, and once you say it, you try to uphold, even if you have to go through some difficulties.
Even when it goes against dharma.
Dharma. So this is why I said, don't over romanticize it, right? Because there are nuances, and that nuances I will bring. But first, let's understand the value. Then there are exceptions, and then that is a good point, Ludwig, right? But let's not mix everything now. But just let's see the strength of the character. Then we can debate it, because it's true. It's true, right? So, but we can't be so dismissive about it, because there is a certain value to it, right? Now, so after Rama leaves, what is Dashratha's life? He got sick, there was a shock, and he was sick most of the time, and he passed away. So what it says is that this is a lineage, and if one person deviates from it, what happens? One person says, I choose not to honor my words, and I'll say things, and if it is not convenient to me, I'll change. What happens to the next generation?
Getting worse.
It gets degenerates. This is what we call degeneration. A small deviation and we take license, then the next person takes yet another license, next person takes yet another license, and you go just become ordinary human beings. So there is this particular story in Kathopanishad. How many of you have studied Kathopanishad? You've studied Kathopanishad. So there is a lovely story about this young boy, Nachiketa, and Nachiketa, his father, is doing one whole big yajna, a big Vedic ritual. And as he was doing ritual, part of the ritual is to part with wealth, right? What you value, you have to give away. Because what they say is only you have to find the bigness within you to give away things. An insecure person cannot part with things. You need a certain security in order to become generous. And what is interesting is life compensates you for being generous. It showers you with abundance. So either you can live from this insecure person who only is insecure and, oh my God, I don't have enough, and you keep grabbing and hoarding, or you change this attitude and you start giving and you become generous, and the universe compensates you back and you get abundance. You start living with blessings. And you see that in life of people. Mostly big-hearted people, they have something, and as they have become large-hearted and they have started, the life treats them well. So, now this Nachiketa's father is distributing wealth as part of that ritual, but he is distributing old cows, which are like completely useless. And he is giving all the old useless stuff. Now Nachiketa is only 11 years old. And he observes and he says, you know what, this is not called giving. This is called discarding of useless things. Giving means you value it. It is something which is valuable for others. and you are parting with something that you like. There is a certain feeling that I'm parting with something which is valuable for me, and you are big enough to do it, and you are secure enough to do it. So getting rid of all these useless things in the name of, oh, I'm very generous, is not what it is. So Nachiketa goes to his father, and what does he tell his father? Look at the conversation. It's brilliant in Upanishads. So Nachiketa goes to his father and says, Father, who will you give me to? What is in his mind? At least I will be more useful to others than all these useless cows that my father is giving. People will be stuck with old things, useless things, and they wouldn't know what to do. It's more of a liability than an asset for them. At least I will be able to give something. Now the father gets really irritated. So he ignores him once. He ignores him second time because he thinks he's doing something very important and the child is nagging him. So the third time, father gets upset with him and says, I will give you, because he keeps asking, who will you give me to? Who will you give me to? And his intention is, at least I'll be more helpful. He says, I'll give you to Lord Yama. And who is Lord Yama? Lord of Death. Now, Nachiketa takes it very seriously. So after the ritual is over, he tells his dad, I'm going to see Lord Yama, Lord of Death. Now father is shocked. He says, what? What do you mean? He says, you told me that you will give me to Lord Yama. So I will go. He says, no, you were just irritating me. I was busy doing something and, I just out of impulsive saying, I just said, just a figurative speech. It's not like really I want you to send you to Lord Yama. So he says, no, Nachiketa, forget about what I said. What did Nachiketa reply? Father, we don't come from a family where people just say things. We come from a family where people say things that they mean. And if you deviate today, then you will set a precedence and there will be a degeneration. So I will go. And I will go. And I promise you that I'll make that trip to Lord Yama not an ordinary trip. I will make it successful for me. And that's where the whole teaching goes. And he goes, I will not get into it, but the teaching is he asks Lord Yama for the final truth. And he says, you tell us what are we human beings and what is our journey on this earth and what is death about? And he gets the answers to those very fundamental questions. So he's not intimidated by the fact that he has to go and meet the Lord of Death. He makes use of it. But why he is able to make use of it? Because the father is willing to, move away from his words. But he says, you have to honor it, Father. These are beautiful stories. They are touching stories. In Mahabharata, there is an example, and what is that example? A famous example of Bhishma. Bhishma Pitamaha. And what did Bhishma that also is an interesting story. Bhishma is a son of Shantanu, is the king, and his wife Ganga. And both of them were married, but for some reason Ganga goes away. I will not get it, otherwise it will take one whole class. So that's not the purpose, right? So she goes away, and Bhishma is growing up with his father. One day, his father falls in love with one woman, Satyavati. And the Satyavati's father tells Shantanu that, I'm willing, and Shantanu, the king, wants to marry her, Satyavati. So the father of Satyavati tells Shantanu, the king, that you already have another son, Bhishma. So I'm not willing to give my daughter to you because her son will not become the king. Right? Because you have an elder son and he is eligible, he will be the crown prince and he will become the king. So Shantanu says, no, I can't do that to Bhishma. So he just walks out. But he sees that he is not happy. I mean, Shantanu is in love and he can't marry that woman because the father gives a condition that you can only marry my woman if her child becomes the king. So and now Bhishma sees that father has changed somehow. He's no longer this, a person who is enthusiastic. He seems to be lost. He is lost in his own world. So he wants to find out what happened. So he finds out from his charioteer what happened. Why is my father so sad these days and uninterested these days? And the charioteer tells him that he went and he met some woman and he met some the family of that woman, and since then he's feeling low. So he goes to see this woman that his father wants to marry, and the father says, no, I'm not letting my daughter marry your father because you are the crown prince. And because of you, her son will not become the king. So he takes a vow. And what is a vow? That I will not have children and I will not marry. Look at this. Crazy. Right? That then what will happen if he is not going? I give up my right to the throne of Hastinapura, of the kingdom, but I will also not marry so that the next generation also doesn't have a claim. Now, this is what he decides. He takes a vow, and his whole life is lived, right? And his father, when he finds out, the father says, what did you do? I was willing to give her up because I can't be so unfair to you and deny you the right to be the king. But he says, no, I will, your happiness is important for me and I'm willing to do it happily. But he says, what about the kingdom? Because you are really bright and you are intelligent and you are dharmic. He says, I will definitely always be by the side of the king of Hastinapura and I will always protect the kingdom. This is his vow. If some of you know the story of Mahabharata, what happens? Bhishma ends up on Duryodhana's side because he was the king. And he had taken a vow to protect whoever was the king of Hastinapura and by his side. And so much he had to go through in life, but he stood by what he said. So that means all these stories show the weight of the words. How you can become this person who says, first think before what you say. And after having said it, mean what you say and do what you say.
It's amazing you bring this up because I was going to ask you this question about Bhishma's oath, what it is about, because it's intriguing.
It's
Now you
intriguing.
come with it yourself.
See?
Yeah.
This is the magic of the class. Somebody else was saying that they wanted to know about prayers and I talked about it. And it was not in the subject. Now, what are these stories for? Showing this Arjavam, that you are willing to go through difficulties in your life, but don't lose your integrity. This is a value. But in some cases, as Ludwig is saying, that any value needs interpretation. If you live any value this without larger understanding, what will happen is you will be lost. So that means that there is a value which is a universal value which applies to everyone, but to each and every value there is an exception. An exception is, but not for your convenience. The exception is because of larger order. Bhagavad Gita shows that very, very clearly with reference to ahimsa. Ahimsa is a universal value, non-violence. But Lord Krishna asks Arjuna to get up and fight. Is he asking him to do a dharmic thing? No. He is not asking him to do a dharmic thing. He is saying, yes, non-violence is a value, but when somebody violates you, and if somebody violates the whole population, you have to stand up. Because if you don't stand up, what happens is you allow that person to abuse so many people. So when you stand up, it is not called violence. This is what we call interpretation. Similarly, Arjavam, holding your word is a great value. But if you do it blindly, then what happens is that you lose your ability to interpret. So there is a dialogue in Mahabharata, which is exactly what your question is, that just before the war, right, Lord Krishna goes to see Bhishma. And he says, Bhishma Pitama, you are such an evolved human being, and how come you are fighting on the side of Duryodhana? Then Bhishma tells him that I am bound. I am so sorry. I recognize that Duryodhana is wrong, and Yudhishthir and his brothers are on the right side. But I am constrained by the vow that I have taken, and that I will protect whoever is the king of Hastinapura, and I'll be on that person's side. And Lord Krishna replies to him and said, this is wonderful. It's good to have certain awareness about what you said and go through difficulty, but to honor what you say, but not at the cost of dharma. He tells him. He says here, by this, sticking to this, Bhishma, think about what you're doing. There is this adharmic king who has usurped the kingdom unrighteously, and he has become the king through this game of dice, which itself was a fraud. And now, since you have taken this vow some 20-30 years ago, that I will protect whoever is the king of Hastinapura, but you're not seeing the fact that that person is not a legitimate king in the first place. The person has cheated and become the king. You don't have any obligation to protect him. Universal value and exception. This is what Lord Krishna says. What does Bhishma do? Even though Lord Krishna says this to him, he is still caught in his own world. His own rules, his own rigidity. No, I will do what I cannot deviate from my vow. And he ends up fighting on the wrong side. What is interesting is, so that means we are not saying that, so can you categorically say Bhishma was a good person or a bad person? You can't categorically. Why? Because these qualities are extraordinary qualities. You can't totally say, oh, he was useless. But you can't only praise him also because he does make a mistake in his interpretation of dharma. And these are the intricacies of all of us. We are outstanding in some ways, and we are misguided in something else, and we don't recognize it. And even if somebody like Krishna points it out to us, we are not ready for it. We are in our own world.
Amazing.
It's amazing. These are amazing stories. They are amazing stories because they make you understand that hey, there is no black and white. But in all these characters, you will see something, shines and something is problematic. But they are not willing to shift. They are not willing to even they are all in denial. Even if only one person is not stuck in the whole story, and that is Lord Krishna. He's lucid. And that's why he becomes our hero. Our hero. Why? Because he's flexible and he's able to look at the large picture. He's not caught in any one value and rigidity and all. Yes, you need to have that strength, but not, for everything there is an exception. And your mind has to be able to see that. And not that use that exception always for your advantage. And then you, right? The minute you open it up and you say every value is subject to interpretation, human mind is very clever. What will it do? It will turn everything into your advantage and say, yeah, this is interpretation. This is required.
That's much more the Western Christian way of thinking. Oh yeah, you don't have to take it to the word, but to the spirit. It's, because I really didn't mean it. They always deviate. That's the problem in the West.
Yeah. So
And this is a bit too harsh, of course.
this is too
Krishna,
harsh, but how to be flexible and deviation, but not for your own advantage, but for a larger good. That flexibility is actually a positive thing, right? That you're not stuck in any one thing, but not for your, it's like you are cheating, then you said, oh, the whole system is like that. So what? It's not like that. It's for a higher, looking at the larger picture and making the decision from that. So this is why this Arjavam, this small practice of this Arjavam, it will do you a lot of good. It will, it's interesting, there is, even in Vedanta teacher, really, some teachers say things and perhaps all the teachers have studied the same text and they have studied the same thing. Some teachers' words penetrate you and some just remain ideas. Why? The words are the same. That is because of the person and how much work you have done on yourself. This whole practice of Arjavam. How much you have tried to actually live by what you teach. The depth of those words is completely different. They are not mugged up words. They come from a certain understanding, certain depth, that is very, very important. So, this Arjavam is a lovely value to practice. Is it clear? So, now, the next value is an interesting value. It is Acharya Upasana. Acharya Upasana. And this is your relationship. This actually talks about your relationship with the teacher. Acharya is a teacher. Your relationship with the teacher And this is something which is, especially in Vedanta, it's very important. Why is it important? Because suppose you were studying physics from some professor, or you were studying mathematics from some professor, or you were studying history from some professor. What will happen? You'll go to the university, he or she will give you 1 hour lecture. After that, what that person does in their life, you don't know. And it doesn't actually even matter. As long as the person can teach mathematics properly, it's not your business how the person lives. And you perhaps, you are never going to find out, and you don't care and you don't know. So it's just a transaction, right? I know this subject matter and I'm teaching it to you. You come and you learn. We don't really invest in any personal relationship. It's just a professional relationship. Like you go to a doctor and he, as long as he's a specialist in that thing, you have ear problem. You don't care how he lives, what he does. That's not your problem. And you go and consult him and he cures you, and then it's over. But Vedanta is not like that. Why is Vedanta not like that? Because you have come to that person to learn something which is so fundamental. It includes your inquiry about who you are, what the nature of the world is, what is the nature of the cause of the universe, how to prepare yourself to know this reality. This person is not just one person who's giving you a subject matter, teaching you a subject matter. This person is actually helping you see certain things that you don't see, which will totally reshuffle your understanding of everything. And when can that happen? Tell me. Only when you have trust in that person. Otherwise, it's not possible. It's a very deep relationship. It's not, see, the modern day is what? You go to YouTube, type Advaita Vedanta. One day you listen to this, next day you listen to this, third day you listen to this. Your mind is full of information. No connection to any teacher. But it seems like you're learning because you're listening to some video or the other every day. But there is, it is beautiful in the Guru, the word in Sanskrit. Gukaraha is Antakaraha and Rukaraha is Nivartakaha. So what does it mean? The person who removes the darkness of confusion, ignorance, mix up, foggy, vagueness, everything. But it is almost like somebody you are allowing to say that now I want to re-understand life in a different light, and I allow you to give me thoughts which will guide my new thinking. Do you understand what a big thing it is? It's not a small thing. I open myself up to you to receive these inputs. And I trust you. And I know that you will not misguide me. So, what happens is, this in Sanskrit, we give it the name called Shraddha. Certain Shraddha, certain trust, certain reverential attitude, because the magnitude of what that person is going to do, the magnitude of the contribution that that person is going to make in your life is enormous. It is incomparable to anything else that you can receive. So it is not transactional. So we Vedanta teachers, we are free. Nobody can buy us. What we decide is how inspired people are. If people really seek it, we give with full heart. So, because what we have is something which see, the thing is, there is no monetary value to what you make a contribution to somebody's life. What is a monetary compensation for that? You make them see things. You make them move away from their smallness and see them in a much better light. What is a monetary compensation for that? There is no price. So this is why what you can do to serve the teacher is by showing your love for learning. That is your offering to the teacher. Because in that love for learning, you inspire the teacher. You go, suppose I come to the class, everybody is sitting like this, totally no feedback. I'll just say what I have to say and I'll walk out. But if I see shining eyes, if I see a face which is engaged, immediately there is this whole magic that happens. My thinking, because there is a certain connection. And then there is certain exchange, there is certain trust, there is a certain relationship where the teaching can flow. So, this is something that we have to develop with whoever is your teacher. It's an extraordinary relationship, which blesses you, and it empowers you. A real Guru Shishya Parampara is what? See, the beauty of this Guru Shishya Parampara is there is no one person who only remains Guru and you always remain a disciple. The disciple graduates to being a Guru. You have empowered the person. Otherwise, you always remain small and you are always looking for masters who are larger than life. And you always feel as though you have to be at their feet. So you never graduate from there. So, all 300 students of Swamiji, we were all Shishyas. We have all become teachers now. That is empowering, right? It's not like of course we all love him and we have so much reverence for him. And how many times in my talks his name comes, what he said comes, it comes. Of course you have tremendous respect for him. But it's not like we only are there, he has empowered us to be able to communicate what we have learned from him. And pass on this whole tradition of teaching. And this is true for every discipline. It's not special to Vedanta. How is physics continuing? How is music continuing? How is the dance continuing? How is it continuing? You have a guru, you learn, and then you yourself start teaching somebody else. This is called empowering tradition. It is not, if the guru is caught in their own trip of power, you remain that big person and everybody else is like all serving you.
You have to take the responsibility.
Yeah. You have to take, see, one thing is very, very important. you have to take responsibility. Whether you feel that you are I'm responsible for not, but for this time, I am responsible for what I say, what you understand. I'm responsible. I take it seriously. I don't just take it as, oh yeah, I have 1 hour, say whatever, and then I'll go home. This is not how I feel. It's a responsibility. If somebody has traveled across the world to come and listen to you, you have a responsibility. And you have to do your best. So what does it mean? It's not a simple relationship. So this is why it is transformative relationship. It's not just technical relationship where you just learn terminology. It transforms you as a human being. So, the more you see the person from whom you learn Vedanta as that person and that person's contribution, more trust you have, the more personal relationship you have, you will, open your mind to, and, let the teaching just enter you without any resistance. But that point has to come where there is a certain connection. So, this is a very beautiful relationship, which is an empowering relationship. And, even at a personal level, I see that, sometimes people come to Vedanta because they are going through some issues in life and all. And they need your help, right, to sort things out, whatever relationship issues they have or whatever past experiences they have. And you have to help them to guide. But over a period of time, you have to not make them dependent on you. You have to set them free, and you have to give them tools to be free and independent. So one thing that Swamiji did for us, he never gave us any advice about our life. He said, my job is to make you mature enough, discerning enough, wise enough to handle your life. My job is not that anything happens and you run to me and, oh, Swamiji, what do I do? You still remain this lost person. So that is one thing that he used to say, that Vedanta means your freedom, your confidence in yourself, your wisdom is so self-shining, there are no clutches that you need and to hold on to. You're just confident, but not superficially confident. So, this is a relationship, and this is a beautiful relationship, and there is a certain sanctity in this whole relationship. Now, what I want to do is also talk about a little bit about the dark side of this so-called guru relationship, because it's a very shady area also. Time?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. I don't know how it is in your countries, but in our country, right, the minute the people are, in general, allergic to the word guru. Why? Because they see it, whether it is true or not, it doesn't matter. They see it as, oh, somebody has taken you for a ride. Cult.
Yeah.
So you have totally submitted your thinking, any rational thing. You just project on this person, oh, he's God, he's this and he's that. And you now just blindly follow that person. And you have lost your capacity to discern. You're lost. this is, everybody is so scared when you say I have a guru and I'm going to a guru and all. Nobody wants it, at least in a educated modern India. It's for weak, vulnerable people who just want to hold on to somebody. They just want to be dependent on somebody. They don't want to take responsibility of their life. They are running away. So why do people think like this? Because in the newspaper, from time to time, you hear scandals and big scandals. People rip you off of your wealth, your the relationship, that there is a mess up, and all kinds of things happen when you submit to that person. And you allow that person to take over your mind, and you lose your ability to think. The person totally, takes you in their hand and abuses you, and you don't even realize that you are being abused or violated. And so many things come out. It's incredible. So why does that happen? Two minutes now, next time, in the afternoon class. So we have to look at this shadow side of this Guru-Shishya relationship. It's very important to recognize why again and again it happens. There is something there, so we need to be aware of that.
Right.
Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you. Thank you. So